Do you know that meme Humpty Dumpty had a great fall? This was pretty much me this season, only with less apple picking and a lot more mushrooms. We've had the most incredible mushroom season here in Norway this year. I've rarely seen anything quite like it. And it was pretty good timing on my part because earlier this year I started exploring mushrooms for dyeing, which is a topic I'll get back to towards the end of this video. There are so many mushroom species that can be used for dyeing, and I've had so much fun getting to know a few of them. I've spent a good chunk of my free time this fall just snooping around the forest floor for hours and hours on end. And I've also picked a lot of new to me culinary mushrooms, so I feel like I've successfully expanded my mushroom horizon this year. It's currently the end of November and winter has basically already been here for a couple of weeks. And not that that's stopping me from going mushroom hunting, as you will already have seen. But it's really getting cold outside and I'm longing to work on heavy winter garments and accessories. But the knitting I'm going to share today is a bit more lightweight. It's been a while since I shared any knitwear on here. I'll skip most of the summer. It doesn't really feel super relevant anymore, but I will talk about one summer knit. This is the Othilie by Skeindeer knits, a designer I really love and can absolutely recommend. So this is my second Othilie. I made another one last year, which was a complete fail because I used a cotton yarn that expanded like crazy. So this time I knit this in Mayflower's cotton merino, and it seems to have done the trick. This design can be worn with a 5 centimeter negative to a 5 centimeter positive ease. So there's a 10 centimeter wiggle room there. Wow, that was a hard word to say. The last time I knit the size that would put me at the end of that positive ease, which when it expanded it just became way too big. This is knit a size smaller, which puts me at the end of the negative ease. So if it were to expand, it would have to expand more than 10 centimeters to really become a problem. But it fits fine. I'm very pleased with it. More or less at least, because so the sleeves are, I don't know if you can see this on all black yarn, but it's supposed to have like an illusion of being a satin sleeve. So you knit this fake seam, you knit the shoulder cap separately, and then you have to graft the shoulder cap onto the rest of the body. And you do that by basically doing Kitchener stitch, which I don't mind at all. But I somehow put the wrong sides together, or the right and the wrong side together, or you know what I mean. So on the right side facing out, the seam looks really lumpy and bad, and on the wrong side facing in, it looks kind of good. So that's a bummer. And once I realized my mistake, I wasn't going to undo it, because I didn't even know how to undo it without losing all of my stitches. So I just did the same thing on the other side, and then now it's symmetrically bad. So I've decided that I don't care. I just have to remind myself, I don't care. I shouldn't forget to say something about what I'm wearing. This is also a finished object. It's the Ollivanders Turtleneck by Fabel Knitwear, which I knit in Drops Sky. I think the color is called Warm Chocolate, but I might be wrong, which is an alpaca yarn, and it's really soft, like you would expect, and lightweight and easy to knit with, and I think it knits up beautifully. It's knit top down, and you start by doing the turtleneck. I had to do the turtleneck, or the cast on for the turtleneck, many times, because it's a kind of a tight turtleneck, and I wasn't able to cast it on stretchy enough for me to get it over my head. So the solution, eventually, what I did was, instead of joining in the round immediately, I just knit it back and forth for a couple of rows before I joined in the round, and that creates like this little V shape. Normally I would sew that up and close it, but I left it this time, and it gave me enough extra centimeters to barely get it over my head. My go-to cast on is the, what I think the internet calls Old German cast on, or even Old Norwegian cast on. It's supposed to be a pretty stretchy cast on, but it wasn't nearly stretchy enough for this. I should have done a tubular cast on or something like that, but I wasn't really up for learning how to do that. At least not when doing it the way I ended up doing it actually worked. So, and the V shape, sure, it doesn't look great. I wouldn't do it on like a neckline where there's nowhere to hide, but when you fold the turtleneck down, you tuck it under and nobody will ever know. The sleeves are meant to be kind of poofy and just drape ever so slightly over the cuff. To achieve that effect, I had to knit a lot of extra length, like I always do, especially with Fabel Knitwear designs. But in any case, since it is knit top down, it's very easy to check the length of the sleeves as you go and make sure everything looks right. One more thing I have to say about this is that there's supposed to be color work on it, but I completely skipped that part. There should be a bit of color work here at the end of the sleeves before the cuff begins, and also on the lower part of the body. The reason why I skipped it is just because I couldn't find anything that I felt looked right with this yarn, and I really wanted to use this yarn because it is so soft, and I wanted the turtleneck to be as soft as possible. So the easiest solution was to just skip the color work. I have one more finished object to share, and this is the very V-neck raglan by Jessie Maed Designs. This is designed to be very cropped, but I added a lot of length and also improvised some waist shaping. To make the neckline you have to pick up the stitches all the way around the neckline, and I had to do that a couple of times to get it just to get it more even looking, because I kept picking up different number of stitches on each side and it looked really lopsided, so I had to do it a few times before I got it right. I don't like picking up stitches at all, especially over such a long distance on a garment, but I think it looks really good. I'm very pleased. I'm so glad I did it multiple times, because now it looks so much better than it did the first time. I wanted to make something that I could wear in summer. I live in Norway and it's very common for us to have pretty cold summers, or at least cold periods during the summer. I always wear sweaters in summer and sometimes woolen sweaters as well. So by cold summers I mean 14 degrees and rain. The yarn I used for this is All Seasons by Hjertegarn, which is a 50-50 superwash cotton merino. As it turns out, this yarn is very prone to growing unless knit on a very tight gauge. This is not a very tight gauge, this is 20. The yarn manufacturer recommends 26. So this is a very loose gauge for this yarn, and it grew quite a bit. But luckily I made it 2 sizes smaller than I normally would, just because the pattern tells you you can safely do that. So it didn't really matter all that much that it expanded, because now it's basically the sort of standard size for me. So it wasn't a disaster, but I will not use this yarn again unless I for some unfathomable reason want to knit something at the gauge of 26, which will never happen unless it's a sock. But this isn't a sock yarn. Okay, anyway, I love this color so much, but even so, I won't be using All Season Hjertegarn again for something like this, unfortunately. Findus has a sixth sense when it comes to the camera. He knows exactly when I'm sitting down to film. He can be fast asleep, but the moment I turn the camera on, he's there. He has to be a part of it. I don't mind. And now for my works in progress. I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm making another ranunculus. This is my 3rd ranunculus so far this year, or ever, but this is in a completely different yarn. This will be a deep winter ranunculus. I'm knitting this in Drops Alaska, which I believe is listed as a worsted weight yarn, but at 70 meters, or I think it was 70 meters per 50 gram, I would say it's very close to bulky territory, and it feels very bulky to knit with. Since this is meant to be a winter garment, I wanted to have full-length sleeves, and I only have about 15 centimeters left of the body. I bought a huge quantity of this yarn earlier this year because I had some plans for it which fell through. It didn't work for my intended project at all, and I've had this huge pile of Drops Alaska that I haven't found the right project for it, and eventually I just said to myself, what the hell, let's just make another ranunculus. As I was knitting it, I felt like there were some balls of yarn missing. I distinctly remember buying like 10 or 13 balls of yarn, but I could only find 9. And I searched everywhere for the missing 4. I couldn't find them. And then one day I absent-mindedly reached for the scarf I've been using lately, which looks like this. I had already used a bunch of yarn for making this scarf, or mini shawl. This is the Angrboda shawl by Sjösvärd, and it's a very, very simple shawl. It's just garter stitch and a few increases here and there. I've been wearing this all the time. but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together earlier. I really don't want to buy more yarn for this project. Drops Alaska is a very inexpensive yarn. It's available pretty much everywhere, but to get this color I would have to order it online, and I really don't want to do that because it's way too easy to just buy a little bit of this other yarn and a little bit of that yarn, and before you know it, before I know it, I've spent more than I wanted to, because I'm a weak soul. So I've decided that I'm going to frog this scarf, even though I wear it all the time and really like it, because I'm more interested in completing this without having to buy anything for it than I am to keep this, because it's very easy to replace this. It's a very fast knit, and I have so many other yarns that would be great for it in an appropriate quantity. Actually, I have already started making a replacement scarf or shawl. This... no! My stitches! Oh no! Oh, this is so scary. So I'm already working on the replacement. This is another Angrboda shawl in Drops Charisma. The color is 56, I think. This is a very quick project, so it doesn't feel like a big deal to have to replace it. Earlier in October I attended a workshop in mushroom dyeing, which was so much fun, and I have to share the results because I'm absolutely fascinated by them. We created, I think it was 24 colors from only 5 different mushrooms, depending on what kind of mordant we used, or if we didn't use a mordant at all, or if it was the first dye bath, or if it was the main dye bath, or the first exhaust bath, or even the second exhaust bath. So that created 24 different colors and shades. So let me show you. We made a sample thingy like this. I'll show you a close-up. These 5 shades are all Dyer's Mayskill or Dyer's Polypore on different kinds of mordants. This one is Shaggy Bracket. Shaggy Bracket on tin mordant. These 4 are all velvet-footed packs on different mordants. And all of these are the caps of Surprise Webcap or Cortinarius semisanguineus, or other very closely related dye quartz. So the cap of the Cortinarius semisanguineus contains only or predominantly red pigments, while the stalk contains both red and yellow, so it's common to separate the two, so you get 2 different colors. But this, what I have here, is a mix of both the cap and the stem of Cortinarius semisanguineus, or other very closely related quartz. This is the Stinking Earth Fan or Fetid False Coral. I feel like the English mushroom names often are a lot more descriptive than the Norwegian ones, because it really had a terrible smell. It really stunk up the place. This was supposed to become a blue color, but instead we got this icy bluish grey, probably because I wasn't able to keep the pH high enough during the whole, not just the dye process, but also the process where you extract the pigment from the mushroom. It's supposed to be done at a pH of 9, and it just kept dipping below that all the time. So it was very hard to keep it at an even pH, and I assume that's why it turned out more grey than blue. And then finally, at the end of the workshop, we all got to choose which skeins we wanted to keep. So the ones I chose were the following. So this is the Shaggy Bracket on tin. I am obsessed with this color. This color is everything. This is Cortinarius semisanguineus or Surprise Webcap, both caps and stalks mixed together on alum mordant. Cortinarius semisanguineus, caps only on iron mordant. This is the exhaust bath. So the iron turns the red into this chocolatey brown. And this final one is Dyer's polypore or Dyer's macegill on no mordant at all. This is such a perfect autumnal bouquet of colors. I am obsessed with them. And I'm so excited to get into mushroom dyeing properly, hopefully very soon. I've picked so many mushrooms, as I'm sure you will have understood by now. And I can't wait to share the results, however they may turn out. So I will see you then. Bye!